Greetings and salutations, Dave, or I guess technically I should call you Dead on Dave. This is Christopher Daniels.
Hey everyone, it's the Native American Snuka. Want to give a big shout out to Dead on Dave.
Dave, this is Leon White, Big Van Vader.
Dead on Dave. What's up, man? It's the coach.
Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and I know when I want to keep up with the latest in wrestling news from around the world, I check in with Dead on Dave Productions. He covers a wide variety of wrestling topics, including the career of the hardcore legend. Don't miss it. Dead on Productions.
Dave, or
yeah.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Dead on Dave. Man, the 1980s have certainly been taking a hell of a hit as of late. Everybody that you worship, everyone that you've been revering, especially if you're a wrestling fan, they're just falling one after another. Now, this one, if you are into, the whole wrestling scene and you were in the 80s and you're kind of older like I am, you heard about this story a lot. So it's not a huge surprise that Jimmy Superfly Snuka, which is what we're here to talk about today, kids, got charged and subsequently arrested with the murder of Nancy Argentino, his girlfriend, over 32 years ago. It's not really a surprise that he ended up getting charged before he died. Now, he's, 72 years old now. This is years ago, and some people might be like, well, so what? Well, here's the reality. Basically, no state has a statute of limitations on murder. You commit a murder, and they can find a way to charge you, they're going to. He was the only person of interest in this story. This is a very interesting story, and it got a lot of, over the years, it's been recounted and retold, and Snuka himself wrote a book in 2012 talking about how this allegation ruined his life. And he's always maintained his innocence, but it's interesting. The things, how the story has changed, even his original story, because how this got any tread at all is from the fact that there are 5 people who attest, 5 co-workers of his at the time when this happened in 83, that attest that he told them that earlier in the day he had pushed Nancy and she fell and hit her head. When he came home from his day of work, he went to the hotel room, I should say, he found her like oozing shit out of her ears, and it's terrible. I'm just going to go ahead and read the actual synopsis of the article that I read, which is from the Morning Call. It's actually a pretty well-written article by Manuel Gomez Jr. of the Morning Call. So this is what he had to say, and this is it's pretty much a good synopsis of what happened. This was Allentown in Lee County, and this is crazy. All right, so Superfly Jimmy Snuka has been charged with third-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter in the death of his girlfriend more than 32 years ago, and an assault at an Allentown area motel, Lee County authorities said. The charges were announced at a news conference Tuesday afternoon. Snuka, who's now 72, was arrested Tuesday morning at his home in New Jersey and arraigned at 1:50 p.m. from the Lee County Central Booking Center. He was sent to the county jail under a $100,000 bail. Now, it looks like he has posted bond. He will be getting out very soon. He's made a deal to surrender his passport so he can't leave the country or anything like that, but he is going free. Lee County Court District Attorney Jim Martin reopened the case last year, prompted in part by an investigation that raised questions about the death of Snuka's 23-year-old girlfriend Nancy Argentino in 1983. Last year what happened was some autopsies got brought back to the light of day that kind of asked some unanswered questions. Mainly, why was this never investigated more, when in the autopsy that it clearly stated that this should be investigated as a homicide. That was new information that no one's ever seen before. This is a big reason to why Snuka was arrested. At the time of Argentino's death, Snuka was obviously one of the biggest wrestlers in the world, in WWE, WWF at the time. So Nancy Argentino's sister Louise said that this is an absolute relief that justice is finally being had, and for her family's sake. This is crazy. I'm sorry I'm stumbling over this a little bit. This is just nuts to read all of this. Snuka had been in a taping in WWF in Allentown Fairgrounds on May 10th, 1983. He returned to his motel to find Argentino gasping for air and oozing yellow liquid from her mouth and nose. This is all what the record shows. She would later be pronounced dead at a Lee Valley hospital the next day. An autopsy determined she died of traumatic brain injuries and suffered more than 24 cuts and bruises, a possible sign of mate abuse on her head, ear, chin, arms, hands, back, buttocks, legs, and feet. The autopsy also determined her injuries were consistent with being hit with a stationary object. In an autopsy report, forensic pathologist Isidore Madhakis wrote that the case should be investigated as a homicide until proven otherwise. This was all information that was not had at the time. For some reason, this only came to light as of late. It's very interesting. Now, you can make your own assumption as to why, and there's a whole bunch of rumors and conjecture as to why it was. And we'll get into that in a minute. This is absolutely insane. Snuka originally told at least 5 people, including the responding police officer, he shoved Argentino earlier that day, causing her to fall and hit her head. According to police interviews obtained by the Morning Call, this is the article that I'm citing from, he later told police those 5 people misunderstood him and said Argentino slipped and hit her head when they stopped along a highway to urinate, to take a piss. Snuka was the only person of interest in the case but was never charged. There was a very big investigation that was done, and there was an interview by the Lee Valley authorities. Here's where things get interesting, because this is where conjecture gets kind of thrown into it. At that interview, Vince McMahon was said to have been there. Well, not said, he was there. There's evidence of him being there because he was on the record of standing up and, being a character witness on behalf of, Jimmy Superfly Snuka. So this just gets crazier and crazier because there's all these reports of that. And I'm sure none of this. Well, I'm not sure of anything that Vince had a briefcase full of cash, that basically Vince protected his interest. This is absolutely insane. We don't know what's going to happen to him now. There has been a lot of hesitation as to put him in a jail because of his stomach cancer that he was just diagnosed with. Many of the county officials there believe it will be a really big burden on the taxpayers if he were to go to jail. So I'm not sure if he's going to ever go to jail for this. Who the hell knows? This is absolutely insane what's happening. Again, sorry that I am kind of stumbling over some words here, but this is a weird story. And I'm tired as hell, to be completely honest. But let's think about everything that's happened recently. Hulk Hogan disgraced, his Hall of Fame status being up in the air. We got friggin' what's her name, Zahara, fired for Nazi comments and all that stuff. We got deaths of legends and Dusty Rhodes and Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper not being treated very well by basically anybody right before his death. And then Jimmy Superfly Snuka, one of the last bastions of, awesomeness that a lot of people had images of, especially the older group. Now this, being brought up 32 years after the fact, this is craziness. It really is, to think that this shit just continues to happen. But hopefully what it will do is put things in perspective. Because if Jimmy Superfly Snuka does in fact be found guilty of this crime, which I have a feeling he might end up, because if they're pushing a case, if they were able to get a grand jury to allow this to happen, him be arrested and get brought before a grand jury 32 years later, there must be some significant new evidence that has come to light. So it does not look good for Snuka at this time. That being said, we don't know if he's going to do any time for this. There's a very good possibility that everything is suspended sentence at this point, but he will go down in the record as a murderer, and that's kind of all that matters to the family at this point, justice being served after all this time. But what this does do is put a lot of things in perspective. especially with people like Hogan and Zahara, and it's going to really make WWE kind of reevaluate their priorities, hopefully, because you have to ask yourself, first, is this going to have any effect at all on Tamina Snuka? You have to assume she'll never be known as Snuka again. They might even change her name completely if they even decide to keep her long-term past what her contract is now, which we have no idea. Another thing is, I think this kind of forces WWE to look at how they're handling a lot of the other type of situations, such as the Hulk Hogan situation, where what he did was he made some really stupid comments at the worst part of his life against somebody, his daughter, that he was very upset with. So it kind of puts that into perspective as far as what is WWE doing and how big of a hammer should they be dropping on certain people in certain situations. Look, nobody's going to dispute the fact that Chris Benoit being wiped from the history of wrestling isn't WWE's absolute right and probably the best thing, considering the guy committed an atrocious murder, double murder. Regardless of if he was brain damaged or not, which all of that, we'll never know what actually happened. There's no way of possibly knowing, and that's fine. But with this really does put things into light. It put things into perspective. If Snuka is found guilty, then obviously the WWE has to take necessary steps to remove him from the history in a lot of ways. Or should they? That's the question that comes. Any of these wrestlers that gave us all these memories and helped build the wrestling world, should they be completely stricken from history, or should they just be removed from this time on? I mean, look at baseball, what they do with not murderers, because there's not a lot in other professional sports. It does happen, and we just kind of forget about them completely. The Carolina Panthers had a couple guys. You know, we had Ray Caruth, who still gets talked about. But, I mean, stuff like that. But there's an even more poignant name who straight up killed his baby mama. I can't remember his name. Was it Muhammad? I think his last name was Muhammad. He played for Carolina Panthers. You don't hear a lot about him, but it's not like they're stricken from every highlight reel either. You just don't hear about him anymore because they're kind of blacklisted and blackballed. So, and that's kind of what WWE has done with Hogan in ways. They haven't made an official statement, but they're doing everything they can to remove everything they can from his name and his association with WWE without making a hardline stance that Hogan is out of the Hall of Fame and all that. So it's just very interesting to see what they're going to do now, considering this is a completely different situation. So what I'm hoping is that a situation like this will kind of force them to reevaluate exactly the type of punishments that they put down on some of their talent. Did Zahara really need to get fired over her comments on Twitter? I mean, from years ago? Really? Was that necessary? I'm completely in favor of the WWE distancing themselves from Hulk Hogan. But how long should that last? The man has made a lot of apologies. He's hugging every fucking black person he can find. If you're a black person, there's a very good possibility that you have or will soon be hugged by Hulk Hogan in the very near future. There's a very good possibility that's going to happen to you. Hold out hope. So it's just very interesting to see and to see how things are going to progress from here. Because there's a hierarchy of atrocities and how they should be handled. Murder, obviously, you do whatever you need to do. You want to strike them from the record completely? I'm on board with that. Comments in this PC fucking obsessed world, on the other hand, do you really need to get fired? Do you really need to get stricken from the record? So do you have to go to such great lengths as to basically erase somebody from a montage of another person's legacy, like, I don't know, Roddy Piper's tribute video? How about that? There's all kinds of things. There's just a lot of ways to look at it, and when you're talking about guys who built the industry, how much of a reaction is warranted? In this one, obviously, any reaction that they have is completely warranted and justified, and I'm sure we're going to get some news about it very soon. regarding his Hall of Fame status and all of that other stuff. It doesn't really matter, to be completely honest. And in fact, here is a statement by the WWE. I'll read it right now. This will be interesting. This is from WrestlingInc.com. As noted, WWE Hall of Famer Jimmy Snuka was arrested today and charged with third-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter. The charges stem from the death of Snuka's then-girlfriend, Nancy Argentino, back on May 11, 1982. The WWE issued this statement on the news. WWE expresses its continued sympathy to the Argentino family for their loss. Ultimately, the legal matter will be decided by our judicial system. Pretty basic. Pretty basic. It's a pretty damn good distancing, because they don't even mention Snuka at all. So they just mention it's actually a really good short statement by WWE, sending out sympathy to the family of the victim. But at the same time, all of the rumors that go along with how Snuka actually got off back then, I don't know. It's very interesting. You know, a lot of people go back to saying that basically Vince bought this man's freedom, which may have happened. We'll never know. But it's a very interesting conversation to have, is escalation of how things should happen. I don't know. The WWE does have a pattern of firing people and then bringing them back. It happened with Daniel Bryan, happened with Emma, it's happened with a few others as well. They offered the same deal to Alberto Del Rio after the slapping incident. Of course, he was not going to take that because he felt that he was wronged and everything that he did was completely warranted. So the WWE does have precedent with bringing people back. So it's a very good possibility that they will bring back Zahara at some point. We don't know at this point, but man, this is just crazy. Another legend from our youth is now once again disgraced. It's just crazy. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I just want to do a quick video. Don't want to take up too much of everybody's precious time. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day and evening. I'm going to sleep. So make sure you support the channel. Check out everything that's going on within the Joe Cronin community, as well as Tommy C over at Shopping Point, the most badass hockey podcast in all of YouTube-dom. And then, of course, right here, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 1,300 subs. And if you want to get yourself some copious gear, go to www.deadondave.spreadshirt.com and get your copious gear. The copious mug, the copious shirt, the copious club shirt, all kinds of good stuff. All designed by the one, the only, the amazingly talented graphic designer, Isaac Rojas. And make sure you check that out. And if you want to just go ahead and give the Fat Man a tip, go into the description box of this video and donate to the channel. You can do that and say, hey, Fat Man, we love what you do. And give a little tip. There you go. Joseph Blunt, thanks for checking out the show. You're the only guy here live, basically. Mamba was here earlier. So thank you guys for supporting. I really appreciate that. Once again, Jimmy Superfly Snuka charged with murder after 32 years in the death of Nancy Argentino. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you think he's going down for this? How much have you read about it? How much do you know about it? I've read a few articles on it, obviously, since it happened. But I am familiar with it in the past as well. This is one hell of an interesting situation. And it's just sad when it comes down to it. It's sad that we continue to get these legends, these heroes that we had continue to fall from grace. But it's a good reminder that we're all human and everybody is capable of horrific tragedies. Now, I, for one, if he did do this, I, for one, am very glad that justice is going to see its way through the darkness. And it's a good thing that justice will be served even 32 years later. This is 32 years after the fact. It's a very good thing if justice is served. So, yeah, it's absolutely crazy. This is one of those things that shake your head and move the hell on with, basically. If you're wondering why I started stretching this out again, it's because some more people came in there and I wanted to talk a little bit longer. Josh Lyons in the chat says, Dave, I got scheduled to work Saturday. I'm trying to get it covered so I don't miss the draft. Yeah, don't miss the draft. Don't miss the draft. That's all I got to say. Look, hey, I appreciate you guys checking it out, and let me know what you guys think about this whole situation with Jimmy Superfly Snuka. That's all I've got. Thank you guys for joining me. Like, subscribe, and share. As always, if you don't have talent, have talented friends, and keep it copious, folks. Keep it copious. I don't want to use that because it sounds too much like Xavier Woods' keep it tight. Keep it tight. But I like keep it copious, but I don't want to do that. So if you don't have talent, have talented friends. We'll see you next time. Peace.